All right, welcome back to the Mediaverse Studios Podcast. Tonight we have a really special guest. Her name is Marissa Vonn. Welcome. Thanks for making the drive out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's just start with who are you? What's your background?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm Marissa, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a filmmaker from Ottumwa, Iowa, so southeast corner, like an hour from here-ish.
Yeah.
And I currently live in Los Angeles.
All right.
Yeah.
And so what do you do as a filmmaker? What's your kind of main role?
I love directing. That's what I would love to be doing. So I'm just going to say that I'm a director.
Excellent.
Because
You
if you say it, you are. But I do pay the bills being a first assistant director.
Gotcha.
So two very different hats, creative versus logistics.
Nice. Do you mostly work on, and I'm assuming you're doing a lot of like LA jobs, is it mostly like narrative films or is it commercials or what do you kind of mostly do?
Yeah, I actually in 2020, 2020, time's not real. That whole period of time's not real.
What a
but
construct.
Yeah, exactly. 2020, I finally made the switch from unscripted reality TV,
Gotcha.
like finally got out of that and got into narrative, which is what I really want to be doing. Yeah. Like different kinds of stories, more structured, kind of know what the heck you're doing every day. You're not like, where are we going in the morning? Like, where is call time at? So 2020, I transitioned into narrative full time, which was a horrifying jump, but
Right.
especially at that time.
How do you, like, I guess, what are the logistics of making that jump? Do you have like a boss or someone that, or do you just say yes to narrative jobs?
I just got really lucky with the timing because like pandemic happened and then reality stopped really briefly. And I was like, I don't want to go back. So I just didn't. And then I don't know if something changed or if like maybe I just started noticing it more since I was like, I want to do narrative. Like I need to be doing narrative.
Right.
So maybe I just started noticing it more, but like I started seeing job posts for narrative stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is it. And the first narrative job I got because it was in one of those weird Facebook groups,
Right.
and the person who posted it forgot to put their email address, and I was the only one who found it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And she was like, yeah, you're the only one who found it, so clearly you're like thorough and pay attention to details, so you're hired. It was not an interview, and I was like, cool. I know what I'm doing, but like for the narrative format, I don't know what you really want, but I'll figure it out. And I did, luckily.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
You like totally manifested that. Right.
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes.
Of course. So what does a first AD do compared to like a second AD or to the AC or to, the director?
Everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different roles, and I guess a lot of Midwest filmmakers aren't necessarily familiar with what the structure is.
For sure. And a lot of that like still carries over to LA because I feel like it's
Sure.
more of an independent thing that everyone's wearing like 50 hats. We all know how to do like everybody else's job a little bit. But a first AD runs the set, makes the schedules, makes sure we're on time, makes sure everybody's safe, all that jazz. If you're lucky enough to have a second, they'll make the call sheets and run your talent and do like the paperwork, the boring part of it,
Sure.
and help you wrangle background and all that stuff. But I'm not usually lucky enough to have a second. So it's a little, I kind of do both, but it's fun. I actually love working with background and like,
Sure.
because it's the closest you get to directing when you're an assistant director,
Right.
which is cool. And yeah, it's really just support the director, support the story, and also make sure everybody's safe and not doing anything really dumb. Sometimes we just like to do dumb
course.
stuff, though.
Right. Got it. Well, that's really cool. Okay, so yeah, you're from Ottumwa, but then when did you move out to LA?
I did a lot of gallivanting, I will say.
All right.
I left Ottumwa in 2012.
Okay.
2012, yeah, to like go to college in Florida, and then I had like the post-graduating panic of, oh, I'm not in school, like I have to have a job. I have to have a job immediately. So I did like, the whole search anywhere for anything that's like even remotely related
Sure.
to a film degree, and somehow ended up working at a summer camp in Palo Alto, which is like south of San Francisco.
Yep.
Because they were like, we're looking for a videographer, which was like not what I thought it was, because I thought that would mean like, oh, take videos for the kids. No, it was teach children how to do that.
Cool.
But then it was really weird. They also had like a filmmaker in residence thing that was the job that I thought I was interviewing for.
Okay.
So did that, and it was like teach kids how to use cameras, but also like if you need to pick up more shifts, which you do because you live in the Bay Area and it's so expensive, it's like teach children how to make bread. Or like
What?
yeah, like all these different little stations. So if
Sure.
you needed extra shifts, if you knew how to do something else, you could teach that. So I definitely taught children how to make bread in Ziploc bags.
Whoa. What was this camp?
They called it a free range camp.
Okay.
So like kids could just come and go as they pleased. Not from the camp, but like inside. Like they could go to whatever.
Just kind of learn with whatever they felt like learning.
Yeah, which was very interesting.
Wow.
And that's from there, I like learned about Staff Me Up and applied to every single thing that I had no idea how to do, and somehow got hired as a gaffer.
Right.
Thankfully, it was all LED lights on batteries, so I like didn't
Oh, hell yeah.
have to worry
Run stingers and worry about
yeah,
voltage.
exactly, about
Nice.
worry about balancing power, any of that, because I would not have been very successful at that.
Right.
And then I got into like PA work, and then it like spiraled from there into like field logging, which is just
I'm not even sure what that is.
it's I think it's pretty specific to reality TV. It's like you get a Comtech and you listen and you're like in a weird corner with your laptop and you type everything everyone says.
Oh, wow.
And everything they do with a timestamp. Oh, wow. And then you send it to the editing people so that they don't necessarily have to look at the footage. They definitely still do.
Got it.
But somehow I did that and then they're like, "Oh, if you can do that, you can be an associate producer," which is basically the same job,
Wow.
but with more pay and a better title.
Cool.
So then I did that for a while, and then there was like a weird, I'm gonna call it a crew changeover on a show I was on, and I got bumped into like a higher position. And then I'm like, I guess I work in reality TV now. And I did that for like 5 or 7-ish
Just kind of
years.
riding the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I can still get work and like it pays and it's close enough to movies. I'm like, there are cameras, there's sounds, there's stories. It's here.
It's being broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like a really huge learning experience to do that for that
Awesome.
long. And also it like paid for all the short films I made.
Yeah.
So we'll take it.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I transitioned into ADing.
Right.
Because I was like, this is pretty much the same. Like I can make a schedule and I can help guide people to where they need to be.
Right.
So yeah, it was a fun transition.
Wow. So did you go to film school in Florida?
I did. I
Cool.
went to Full Sail,
Nice.
which is in Orlando.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. So I guess the question now is, what are you back in Iowa for?
I am back because I had to be very careful with my words here because you know how this is. Our special supporter event for my first feature film, Knee High, we did a special event at the Varsity Cinema in Des Moines, and we got to invite all of our cast and crew and our supporters
Wow.
and like folks who donated to our crowdfunding campaign.
Yep.
And we got lucky enough to have some seats left over after that, so we got to let people in who just supported the film via social media or like supporting the local arts, and they saw the poster somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I came back for. And then also Christmas,
Of course.
casually.
Yeah. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but this is Christmas time.
It's Christmas adjacent at least.
So tell me all about Knee High. I know some, but as if I don't know anything. What is Knee High?
You're like, as if I know nothing. So Knee High is my first feature film, and we shot last year, September into October, in Madrid and Des Moines, over 15 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. It luckily like a pretty short script that somehow became a 2-hour movie on accident.
How many pages?
85?
And it became a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first, I remember getting the text that the first cut was done, and the text said 2 hours, 2 minutes, and I was like standing. It's so weird. Like, you know how you have like a really specific memory sometimes for things? I remember that I had just stepped out of an actor's trailer. I was like in the mountains in Santa Clarita doing an AD job, and it was like 40 degrees, and I like stepped out of this trailer and like looked at my phone, and it said 2 hours and 2 minutes, and I was like, how? I don't even remember shooting that much. But yeah, it's not 2 hours and 2 minutes anymore. It's slightly under 2 hours.
Okay.
And it's the story of a young farmer dealing with finding himself and learning how to be a parent while also grappling with grief of losing his grandfather and trying to take over the family farm and take on all that responsibility.
Right. And where did the story come from?
So we did a short film in 2018 Time's not real, again.
Of course, yeah.
We did a short film in 2018, and it was in the same world, but not the same story, but
Okay.
the same characters, like the same sort of tone, I guess. And I just knew that the story wasn't over. And when I wrote this short, my intention was to make it a feature, but I was so scared that I was like, I can't write a feature. Like, I can't make a feature film. That's crazy. That's bananas. So I was like, let me just make a short and see if I know what I'm doing, and if people like the story. Like, do people even care? Like, because it's weird. Like, because it's such a niche. The short is more about Cal, which is the lead character's name. Really, it's really honed in on him being a parent, and in the short,
Gotcha.
he's not a great parent. So
Okay.
it's kind of a fine line to walk. It's like, will people like this, or are they going to think he's a bad person? Which, risky. And
Is he
then,
meant to be likable in the movie?
yeah, I think the short and the feature as well. It's like, I think it's hard to recognize yourself in the character because nobody likes to see that side of themselves.
Sure.
Like the stubborn, hard-headed,
Yep.
incapable of asking for help side of themselves. But yeah, I think he's relatable because I am all of those things.
Right, and it takes someone who's at least emotionally mature enough to like allow themselves to see themselves in that character and be like, okay, hey, I do have some of these qualities.
Right.
Maybe I should work on that.
Right, exactly. It's like they're not necessarily bad qualities either.
Right.
It's like we all have a touch of them for sure.
Yep. So why is this story special to you? Like, why make the feature and why now?
Great question. Partially, it was time sensitive because I could not picture anybody else playing the child that's in it. And like kids grow so fast. And when we did the short, he was 7 and now he's 12. I'm like, oh man. Like, I know I want to tell this story, but like I probably could have sat on it for longer.
Sure.
Because I love to procrastinate. I just love to. But it was like seeing his mom was like, I think he's going to hit a growth spurt soon. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Let's beat those hormones.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Because he's 12. I'm like, oh no, what if he gets too tall? Like, what if we can't believe that he's the lead's kid? And it was a whole, like, existential crisis. And I was like, okay, well, the movie's written and, like, I don't know how precious you get with your scripts, but, like, sometimes I'll sit on them forever and be like, well, it's not perfect, but it's done.
Yeah.
And done is better than perfect sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exactly. So then I was like, all right, the script's in a place that, like, I need to share this with the people who I want to make it with, and we need to make it before it's too late.
Right.
And also, like, if too much time goes by, like, people don't remember the short, they don't remember the characters, they don't remember how they felt watching it, they don't remember being like, oh yeah, we like this movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it had to get done now. And also, like, sometimes the story gets stuck and it's like, I can't do anything else until this is done.
Yeah.
So it was that. Like, I don't think I wrote anything else. I think I wrote one other short film in the time, but it's because that was, like, all I could think about was figuring out what the feature story was and, like, how to tell the story without it feeling inauthentic or gross or weird or boring. So I was like, I gotta get this out so I can tell another story.
Right.
And hope I'm still not quite there yet, but I will be soon.
Yeah.
I hope.
Sounds like it was like nature's way of forcing your hand to, like, move.
Exactly.
On this.
100%.
Cool. So you mentioned that you shared it with the team. So you had a team in mind when you were creating this thing. And so what is that team?
Yeah.
And why that team?
Why that team? So I've made all of my short films that have been completed. Things get lost in post. It just happens. Sometimes they just die in the edit. I work with Bruce Bales and JB and Spencer and Nick and Kalena, like all the Des Moines-based folks that I've worked with on everything. And those were the first people that I shared it with because I was like, I don't think I can do this without you guys. And I was like, God, I hope they say yes. And luckily, it only took like a small amount of arm twisting to get everybody back. And then obviously Michael, who helped me write it, which is our lead actor and producer, he helped me like shape the story to figure out where we go from the short. And he was all in. Like, he waited through my 3 days of silence while I wrote the first draft of the script and just let that happen. But yeah, that's the team I like working with. I think we're all really great collaborators, and we kind of after the amount of shorts that we've made together, there's a really easy shorthand where it's like, I don't have to deeply explain what I'm trying to say to you, like about shots, about whatever thing it is. It's like, I can just say like 3 words, or like sometimes don't even have to say words. I can just like look.
You get into that really special rhythm on set where it's like you can almost read each other's minds, and it's, you know, you've collaborated for so long and know each other's languages that it's very, I get that. I get that a lot.
Or the body language where it's like, you can tell by someone's face that they hate something. Yeah, which is really helpful because then it's like I can just like turn around and make sure someone else can see my face, and then they're like, oh, you didn't like that? Okay, we'll change it.
So you directed 85 pages in 15 days in 2 cities.
Yeah.
How? Wow.
Wild. I'm an AD in my day job, per se. So like I had that in mind, but I had never really had, like I'd had an AD on the short film, but maybe I just blacked the experience out, but like I don't remember it ever being told to hurry up or like anything like that.
Really?
But luckily, Bruce recommended this amazing AD to me named Tempest Montgomery, who came down from Minnesota to do the movie, and had just kept us all sane and like made sure that the schedule that we made was not undoable, impossible, improbable, any of that, and like looked it over and was like, yeah, this is pretty improbable in some places because you seem to think that you will only be outside at sunset. But we somehow made that happen. And we couldn't have done that without Tempest being like, okay, we have, like, looking at the watch, being like, we gotta go outside, it's time. And I'm like, what if I did another take inside? And she's like, do you want to shoot outside at sunset? I'm like, okay, I'll go, I'll be done. But yeah, it takes a really good AD, and I knew that, but I hadn't experienced it necessarily, so that was a gift, truly. And I can't imagine not having a strong AD for anything from here on out. And it helps so much because, you know, sometimes it's hard to shut off that part of your brain. Where it's like, oh, I know what we should be doing, but also I'm trying to direct actors and all that jazz. All that jazz.
But so you're allowed to, you know, trust this person and shut off that, like, logistics load so you can focus on the actual art and the craft.
Right.
It's cool.
It's scary.
Yeah, I imagine it is, especially coming as an AD professionally, like, that you're giving that role to someone that was simply recommended to you. Yeah.
And also, I mean, I think for any filmmaker that's making something, it's hard to delegate and not be like, oh, I want to like have my hands in everything and like I want to do XYZ and want to make sure like this is right and this is right, because it's like that's your project. That's like you're so worried about it being good and it being right and like being what you pictured that you're like, oh man, letting go of control is hard. Yeah. And so scary.
Yeah. Believe me, yeah, I know. But yeah, that's filmmaking. It's just so collaborative. Like you have to. If you want to make something of this scope, it's very necessary. Yeah. So how long, I guess, have you been directing?
I've been directing since college. So the first time I ever okay, actually, hold on. Let me let me restate that. I've been trying to direct since high school because I got into like filmmaking, the arts, because I don't really know why, but I really thought I wanted to do music videos. So, do you remember Sony flip cams?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a knockoff version of that still had like the USB port that came out.
It flips out. And it's
but like also the lens did this like weird, like it would rotate out. It was really weird. Whatever, and it existed. I swear. So I had one of those, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna make I don't think I knew the word narrative, to be honest. I'm going to make a story video that goes with this song. And
nice.
I like tried to make this 50s period piece in high school.
What?
I don't know. I like had some of my grandma's clothes and like.
Oh, cool.
But like I didn't know. I thought you had to shoot it in order.
Okay. Oh, like yeah.
Yeah, like I thought you had to shoot chronologically. Like I didn't understand like takes. None of that. Okay. None of that, because I had no concept of anything. Right. So I'll say I've been trying to direct since high school, but the first time I like actually got to direct was in college with the structure and the knowledge of, oh, you can do takes and non-linear editing is a thing. You do not have to shoot in order.
Unless you're doing like Windows Movie Maker, then you are linearly locked.
Yeah, right. Thankfully, I don't even think I had an editing software. I think I thought that I could shoot it on the camera and plug it in and it was just done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so glad I learned.
Please tell me this is out there somewhere.
No. I'm sure that camera is still around somewhere in my dad's shop, and I could probably plug it into a computer and see what happens. Hey. And I should release that as archival footage.
Yeah.
But the first time I got to direct like post knowledge of any time was in college. We had 3 big projects per se, and I got to direct 2 of them. And the first one I did not write, but I got hired to direct. Like, you had to do an interview, but it was, I don't know, it was weird. It was a weird process for that one. The second one was a true interview, and you had to like submit your portfolio and like all of your prep work, like your shot list, your lined scripts, your story, everything.
Interesting.
And your reel, which I submitted on a DVD, which is insane looking back at it. Like,
yeah.
Links exist, but okay, cool, whatever. And so I got hired for that one as well. And that I had written the script, but it was the way the scripts for that class project got chosen. They took the title pages off, so nobody knew that I wrote it, which was a really fun reveal.
Interesting, yeah.
It was a really fun reveal when they were like, here's the 3 scripts we're doing, and here's the crew. And then that's when everyone found out that I wrote it and was directing it. And there was just like light rioting. Not actually, but it was actually fine.
Cool.
But that was the first thing I wrote and directed. And then I didn't do anything for a while until I was in Indianapolis, where I lived for like the longest stretch of time before moving to LA. And then I tried, I was like, I should make a short film. And apparently had forgotten the entire process from college. So started over again and made a short film called Lunation. And it went okay. It went fine. It exists.
Right.
It is done, and that's what matters.
That's right.
And then I like
it's reps. You know?
Yeah, it wrapped, and from there I think just like making more short films and like learning, and I think I've done 6 or that sounds right. 6 sounds right since then.
Wow.
That I would call actual like cohesive shorts. Not that Lunation wasn't, but like. Outside of that first one that I feel like I forgot what I was doing, like forgot the whole process. So yeah, I'd done quite a few shorts, and then I've been lucky enough to direct some episodes of web series. Like I got to come back here, actually to Iowa City, and direct an episode of Friendly Faces.
That's right.
Yeah, which was
my God, yeah.
So much fun.
Yep.
I am so glad I got the episode that I did, and Keaton's like such a great writer and like such a good collaborator, and I got like this really fun episode. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about, but it's fun.
I got to see the first episode of that at the Cedar Rapids Film Festival.
Oh, that's awesome.
Last year, I think. It was incredible.
It's
like, it is so good.
It's so fun. It's like it's such a good
fun,
concept.
It has so much heart.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like so poppy, and I just love that he like when we came into it and talking about it, he's like, they're gonna wear yellow suits, and I'm like, obviously.
Why not?
Clearly. And yeah, it was a really amazing experience, and I'm so glad that he brought me on to do that. And then I got to direct a couple episodes of a different web series in San Francisco.
Cool. Like
5 years ago, I think. Which was fun.
So you've been all over with this industry.
Yeah.
Like Florida, Indianapolis, San Francisco, LA, Iowa. Like, I think you have a pretty unique perspective on this industry and filmmaking in general, and creativity and artistry and collaborating from all different parts of the country. What would you say is like things that you've learned, you know, from one geographic place to the next, like specifically like LA versus Iowa? What do you like about both? What do you hate about both?
Really great question. It's easy for me to tell you what I hate about LA filmmaking, but I'm not going to start there because I don't want to sound jaded because I haven't been there that long. I think the biggest difference, aside from budget, like that's the obvious one, is the way people work. And we kind of talked about it earlier, that indie films have it in common that everybody's willing to help everybody and everyone kind of knows a little bit about every department and like enough that they could take on some extra responsibilities. But once you get up to the higher budget levels, like whatever a step above indie is, but not studio, there's like a far stricter hierarchy in Los Angeles
Gotcha.
that I don't think I've ever seen here, where it's like, oh, grips only touch grips and electrics only touch electric, and like really hard lines, which is the biggest adjustment because like.
Is there value to that?
Yes. Could I identify it in an articulate way? Probably not. Like, I get it. It's like I know there's part of it is union and part of it is safety, and people are like, really, sure. I think there's more people that are nichely trained there for like really specific, like, oh, this light, I know how to take it apart and put it back together, and that is all I will be doing. And it's like, they're the only person there that can do that task. Sure. And then there's like 5 grips that will move that one C-stand. And like everyone has a far more niche training and interest. Sure. Whereas here, I feel like we're all a little bit scrappier. So we all had to learn how to do everything. So everyone's more willing to be like, I will move the C-stand and the light and like that kind of stuff. So I think that's like the biggest difference is at specific levels, there's like a really strict hierarchy, which I don't dislike, but it's definitely a learning curve because I'm not used to it, where like it's just so strange.
So there's an AD trying to do something like, no, don't do that.
Oh, that was the first time I'd ever had that happen. Like I went to move a C-stand that was in my way, and like a grip was like, don't touch that. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's in my way. Like I'm trying to walk talent, right? Whatever. But it's like it's very different. Whereas here, like no one would bat an eye if you did that, and I prefer that because I'm very impatient and I don't like to wait for things. But yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference per se is like that hierarchy. Sure. That and like the thing I don't like is I have to find a way to say it nicely. There's a lot more people doing it there with less experience. Okay. If that makes sense. Whereas here, I feel like even the people who have less experience have still put in the effort to learn, or they're at least willing to acknowledge that they're like, this is my first thing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, people are more willing to, I guess, be humble and be like, help, I don't know what I'm doing.
Or as opposed to they would not know how to be a gaffer but still apply for the job. And not to point you out, but like, there's something.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But I mean, also to be fair on that, I applied to be an assistant director, and it was like, they were like, yes, you can do that. And then they like got this incredible like DGA assistant director who's like the coolest person on earth. And they're like, yeah, but we still want you there. So you want to be a gaffer? And I'm like, obviously. Cool. I don't know how to do that, but yeah, clearly we would do that.
Yeah. But at least you had the humility to say, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, but I'm still down.
Exactly. And also they were like, it'll be fine. It's LED lights. I'm like, cool, great. Batteries, we're fine. We're good. Gotcha. So wild. But yeah, that's, it's a different world out there. And I think here people are more willing to like try new things and to like do things in a different way than what is expected of you in Los Angeles, where it's like, you know, the saying of like, oh, but that's how we always did it. That's how we always do it. And that's the thing that gets us in trouble. But here it's like, well, we haven't always made movies here. So like, we're not bound to how it's always been done. We can do it however we want. We can have a 5-person crew. Like, it's fine. Whereas if you said that in Los Angeles, I think someone would fully poop their pants. Wow. If you were like, yeah, we're going to make a feature with 5 people, I think they would actually poop. Yeah. Just pass out.
There was a little side story. I can cut this out. But there was I was an extra in a thing in Iowa City. And it was like a proper like SAG set. People from LA came out in Chicago. It was astonishing how many people were there for like one little scene in a convenience store, you know? Gosh. And they wrapped us early, and I'm like, well, I'm here. I can help out if you guys need. And they looked at me funny and like, what? Look, get out of here. Take your check and go.
You're like, sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to help. I want to learn something.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't like that. But that's also like kind of typical.
That's what I was asking. I guess was like, is that the norm? Is that what can be expected for people that go out to LA?
I mean, I don't want to say it's the norm, but like on the bigger sets, if somebody showed up as like a background actor, and then they were like, I could stick around in PA.
Like, I got hands.
Yeah, exactly. I think for the most part, they'd be like, no, please go home. Yeah. Like, as an AD, I would probably also send them home, more for, like, insurance liability stuff, but...
Oh, I suppose.
There's probably a way around it. Because everybody has to get on set somehow.
Right, it was a really cool experience. But cool. I also really appreciated my film people here, the way we do things.
Right.
So how was that transition going from that culture back to Iowa to film Knee High? Like, was it really refreshing? Was it something that like, oh, these are my people and I can come back here? Is it?
Yeah, 100%. It was like, yeah, I missed it because those are the people I love making movies with. And it's just like, it's so different. I still haven't really tried to make anything in LA except for the short I just did because it's like, you can't, I don't know how to word it actually, but like, you can't really ask for favors in Los Angeles. Like, not to the extent that you need to make a super low budget indie film. Okay. Like, you can't go somewhere and be like, hey, can I film in your house for like no money? I have like $12 or like you have to pay people an utterly obscene amount of money for locations. Sure. And like, and also there's like not the same kind of network for indie filmmakers. Like, everybody doesn't know everybody. The way that here, like,
we have a Facebook group.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group that has everybody. Yeah. And, like, also everybody, like tangentially knows everyone here. Yeah. And it's not one of those, like, 6 degrees separated. It's, like, one.
Yeah, so you go to a film festival. I know of your work. I haven't met you, but I really like your work, so let's be friends.
Right, exactly. Whereas in LA, it's like, oh, you're definitely 6 degrees away from, like, everybody. Until you get to a certain level. Right. I hope that's how it works. But, yeah, it was really refreshing to know that I wanted to make the movie. Finish the crowdfunding campaign was actually the biggest relief to not have to think about that anymore because it's really hard. You know, you're in the middle of it. Or the beginning, really.
I'm in the beginning. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Ooh, we're going to get questions.
Yeah, for sure. But to like have that done and to know like, okay, we have that financial support to get us across the finish line to post. Like, we can get through production and like be fine, and then to come back and just like have everybody there, and like it was just really nice. It's like very much a homecoming, sort of.
I was just gonna say the word home. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's what it feels like here.
Yeah, it really does. It's weird because like, sure, I live in Los Angeles, but like I don't call LA home because it's weird. Even though like I've lived there for almost 5 years, I think. I'm like, yeah, Iowa's home. But I don't live there. Like, it's just weird. It's weird.
I do want to get into crowdfunding, but I first want to ask, just like, as a director, like, what is your quote-unquote style? Like, what would you say? How do you work with talent? How do you work with the crew? You know, how do you take that role?
That is also a good question that I will not have a succinct answer for, I'm sure.
Have you built up enough reps to have like a consistency in how you approach a role or approach the job?
Yeah, I think so. I always try to go in with an open mind because like I've said it 50 times, but like scripts are never perfect, but they're done. And like I feel like that, especially with my own scripts, I'm like, I have to stay open to like, if we do a table read and someone's like, oh, you know, this is like, this part's tricky for me because XYZ, like I have to be open to finding a solution to that to make it work, because if it clicks better for the actor or for like somebody else on the crew who's reading it, that's not the writer, that's not the person who spent a billion years just like staring at final draft, then something's missing or something's like not hitting because there's something else missing. So like I try to go into it with an open mind, especially like crew side, and like be willing to collaborate and be willing to find solutions for problems. And then directing actors, I'm still learning, and I think I'll always be learning, but I try to ask more questions rather than, you know, go here, do this, feel this. Because like that's not always the best way to get what you want. And I'm like, I just finished a directing class that was very much like saying like, oh, could you be sadder? Or like, you know, that was a bad example, but stuff like that is quick fix and result oriented directing. I'm trying to remember like the exact language, and that's like lower tier. Whereas you could be asking questions and like
motivate that emotion.
Exactly. Like ask questions, talk about the given circumstances of like where they are in the story and where their character is in their life and all that stuff. I'm like, that is good to know. Glad that I'm doing this far into my career. But yeah, it's like a lot of asking questions, being open-minded, and like being willing to try things, and like let actors have ideas and like let them find the character even if it's not what I pictured.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, because sometimes you get really attached and you're like, I really want you to be like this.
Especially
and then,
since you wrote it.
Yeah.
Knee High specifically.
Yeah, exactly. And you get like real attached, but the actor's like, I can't do that. And sometimes they just can't.
Yeah.
Because they're stuck somewhere else and they're the ones who know the character.
Got it.
Which is it's really fun to watch.
Yep. Is that something that you look out for in the audition process?
Like if they're stuck in a certain...
Yeah, like if they read the character, they're like, would you be able to access, this part here because this is how I'm seeing it?
Yeah, for sure. Auditioning's weird. Like, it's such an intense process sometimes, but I always try to ask questions of, like, if they've read the whole script or, like, if they've only seen the sides. It's, like, it's kind of hard to be like, so what do you think of the character? Like, this type of thing.
Would you recommend sending the full script?
I think so. If you're, like, really serious about, like, say you were going to ask Michael to play something, and you send him the sides and you're like, wow, your audition's so good, I would give him the full script, just so that he could be like, oh, okay, I hate this character, I don't want to play this, or like, I love this character, I see XYZ in this character that I also have in myself, or like, I think it makes it easier for them to relate if they see the full script. But for me, like, if you do callbacks or like if you do in-person auditions, I always try to ask a lot of questions just in general, so that I know the person and like can start to learn about them, and then also ask my favorite question to ask, and sometimes people's faces are like, why would you ask me this? Is 3 words to describe the character.
Oh, I like that.
Because sometimes it trips them up, and sometimes it really makes them show their asses, because sometimes they didn't read the script. Like if they've had the full script, or they like didn't even read the character description.
Oh, I love that.
But which is fun.
Yes.
But yeah, I would definitely, if you're serious about a certain actor after their first read, I would give them the whole script, because sometimes they're going to read it and be like, oh, but I don't identify with the rest of it. Gotcha. And that will screw you over in the end if they like can't find something in the whole script to connect to.
I've definitely cast people just from sides, and it hasn't burned me yet, but that's a
good yeah, it's usually like fully safe for shorts. And sometimes it works for series too. But for features, especially if it's like one lead and not like a support, like an ensemble cast or anything, and you like really need that person to like get it and like nail it, sometimes you just need to see like a large range of what they're gonna do, which is wild.
So have you come across any circumstance where like the talent is just not really getting your vision, or not really willing to accommodate your vision, and they're kind of very stuck, or they're not able to access what you need them to? Is that something that you've got flexibility on, or is it something that, how do you negotiate that?
Yeah, I don't know that I've had any actors that are like really stuck in their own version of something where they're not at least willing to hear out the motivation behind like maybe why I want something specific. There are definitely some moments where it's been like, I think the thing for me that I've seen actors get the most tripped up on is like dialogue changes, where they're like, oh, I really want to say this line like exactly as scripted. But then sometimes you like watch the scene and you like feel the scene while they're rehearsing, or like while you're shooting the master, or like even in their coverage, and you're like, I hate this line. And like, or like for me, like the actor's not saying that, but sometimes it's like, this doesn't make sense off the page. Sure. And sometimes you can reason with them. It just takes being very patient and asking a lot of questions. And sometimes that's one of those, I think, an instance where the result-oriented is okay. It's probably not. If that directing professor ever sees this, she's going to be like, you're wrong. But that's fine. Where it's like, well, this is my current approach.
Let's have it.
We have it that way. Let's try it without. So I have options.
That works because you know what you want, but
because it's true. First of all, it will be an option, but sometimes that gives them like the security to know, like, okay, I did a good job with like that line, and I love it, and I feel good about it. I'll do this one for the director without this line.
Nice.
And like, it seems to usually work. As for actors that are like really staunchly like either not taking direction at all, I haven't dealt with that, but I've watched other directors deal with that, and like it's hard, and I've not seen anybody be able to navigate it gracefully yet.
It's always like a
It's, well, not necessarily that, but like, well, sometimes that, but it's like a lot of like talking and being patient and trying their very best and then giving up.
Sure.
Because sometimes you just have to accept that you'll just have to cut it out in post or come back to it.
Okay.
Which is hard. Like, especially if it's, you know, in their coverage and you're about to like flip to look the other way.
Yeah, change lighting and...
Because sometimes it's like they don't figure, actors like miss what you're saying until they've had time to process, like when the camera's not pointed at them. Sure. And sometimes you just have to do it.
Do you let your talent look at the dailies? You don't?
No, I'm a firm believer in not doing that. Why? I try really hard to make sure they don't even look at the monitor.
Why?
I feel like even if someone is like, oh, no, I definitely don't get in my own head about it, they do. They always do. It's like, even if it's subconscious, whatever. Like seeing yourself on screen when you're supposed to be somebody else, your brain just reverts and it's like, oh, that's me. Not, oh, that's the character. And like, I've just not ever had an experience where an actor comes and watches playback or something and then does better. Like, I'm just not.
Wow.
Maybe the exception is like if it's a really intricately blocked scene.
Sure.
Like the Spider-Man thing with the tray and he like catches all the things on the tray.
Oh, yeah, they have to see, like,
I would let him watch that.
Sure.
And I'm sure they did. But like, unless it's something super intricate like that where it's like, I need you to be here because of this and then be here and then be here. It's like, you just always end up in your head. And then you're out of the performance and then we're wasting takes, which is wasting time, which is wasting money.
I like that. Do you have any interesting or frustrating stories from knee high? We had to solve some problems, not necessarily with talent, but just like as a director, it's always about problem solving. So.
It's always about problem solving. Our shoot went like freakishly well, or something wouldn't. Like, I know it's over, but it went like weirdly well. The weather cooperated. It was, September into October, and it only rained for like 20 minutes. The whole shoot. The whole shoot.
Yeah, I guess it was a drought all fall.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't super windy, and it was only hot one day, and it wasn't ever like super cold. I think the biggest like logistics issue we were dealing with was like figuring out how to get gear places because we didn't have a truck or a van. Like, we had the picture truck, which is a very old truck, but we did move a lot of gear with it, just because we had to.
Right. Was it a truck that you all owned, or was it a rental?
No, that's my dad's truck.
Okay.
And it's a 1992, like, and it's
farm truck. Like
it's
your typical Iowa farm.
Yeah, like
I can see it.
Yeah, I was like, it's just a farm truck. And I think the biggest like weird problem solving story was actually once we wrapped. So Michael and I drove the picture truck the entire shoot, pretty much. No, hold on. Let me just start over. The biggest problem that happened during the shoot was my car broke down in between locations.
Oh, no.
On like, I don't know, I think it was the first week. Like, we were driving from one location to another, pretty much the only day we had a company move, and my car broke down on the side of the highway. And like, I managed to get it to a gas station, and luckily, Nick and Spencer had seen me pulled over on the side of the road, and Michael had seen me pulled over, so they like came to the same gas station. I have this like hilarious picture of Nick and Spencer under the hood of my car trying to figure out how to fix my car. And then I just left it in the gas station parking lot. So I was like, we have to go
Which
to work.
You can totally do here.
You can do here, which is totally fine. I left it there for days.
Yeah.
Eventually went and got it and took it to a mechanic who then told me nothing was wrong with it. And I'm like, what do you mean nothing's wrong with it? Because it was like, it was doing something weird.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, nothing's wrong with it. I'm like,
what the heck?
I was like, did you drive it? He was like, yeah, I took it out on the highway. And I'm like, weird.
What?
And then I picked it up and it wasn't doing the thing anymore. It was very strange.
The set was cursed.
That highway was cursed, I think.
Yeah.
Very strange, very interesting. So that was the biggest problem we had to deal with. And then when we wrapped, because then we basically just drove the picture truck everywhere.
Sure.
Then when we wrapped, we went to get my car from like an hour north of Des Moines, where I'd just left it, abandoned my car, and we were coming back, and we were like on like some farm road in the middle of nowhere. And I'm driving in front of the picture truck, and Michael's just driving the picture truck, and I like stop at a stop sign, and then I go, and I look back, and I'm like, he's not where is he? And like, he wasn't, and I like kept going. I'm like, I looked back and he's like not coming. I was like, what's happening? And then I turn around, the clutch had gone out of the truck, and he had just rolled it into somebody's driveway.
Oh, wow.
And we're an hour north of Des Moines. We're like supposed to be taking our production designer to the airport soon. It was a whole ordeal. So we like left, again, something you could only do in Iowa. Went and talked to the people at this house, and we're like, the clutch went out in our truck. Could we like leave it here? And it was a semi-truck repair person, casually.
Of course.
Of course it was. And they're like, I don't think I can fix it, but sure. And we're like, oh, no, you don't have to fix it. Can we just leave it here? Someone will come and get it eventually. They're like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And then we crammed, I drive like the world's smallest car, not the one that I drove today, but I drive a very small car. And we had so much stuff in the back, and like, somehow we got Michael in the car, and then we got our production designer in the car, and we made it. We made it, but then we had to get a tow truck to come from Ottumwa to get it, to take it back to my dad's house, because nobody from Des Moines would tow it all the way down there. From
Ottumwa to an hour north of Des Moines and back?
Mm-hmm. Like a 6-hour extravaganza. It was bananas. I'm like, wow. Well, at least it waited till we were done, because that morning we had shot some like really last minute truck stuff.
Yeah.
Because we got
pickup stuff.
Because we got worried. We're like, oh man, I feel like we like are missing some like random driving shots of the truck with like Cal and Avery or Cal and Gunner. Yep. And so we had Emil. Do you know Emil?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had Emil like wear the right hat for the child and like just sink down in the seat. And just be the second body for the child, and then put on like Gunner's wardrobe to be Gunner a few times.
Please tell me he's credited as like child standard.
He should have been. Oh my gosh, but it was wild. And so we had like just finished, the truck had just picture wrapped like 2 hours before that happened. Wow. And I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Truly unhinged behavior by that truck. And now it's somehow running again. Oh
my God.
I don't know. It's really random, really strange occurrence that it's back on the road. But that was the biggest like hurdle, was at the very end of the shoot. And I mean, obviously getting to production was an uphill battle, because crowdfunding is hard, and like delegating is hard for me specifically. Yeah. And like doing all the prep from LA was really hard. I'm like, I wish I could have come back like 2 months before and just been in Des Moines the whole time.
Location scout and get all your...
And luckily I came back in July, I think, to location scout. Something over the summer. But I'm like, everything looks different. Yeah. Which was fine. But luckily I'd done all that over the summer. But it was a hurdle to get from there to production.
Well, speaking of pre-production... Yeah. Could you tell me a bit about the crowdfunding campaign that you guys ran?
Yes.
Because that's always funding is always a big thing for shorts and features here in Iowa. Like, it's always where's the money going to come from? We don't have studios.
Yeah, exactly. I had never done a crowdfunding campaign before. Was horrified to do one because they feel so awkward. It's so awkward. Like, oh, I have to ask everyone I've ever known and strangers for money. Cool. Cool. But I could not think of another way to do it. Yep. And I was like, okay, we did the short. We have the short as like proof of concept, literally. And we have our whatever 700 Facebook people. And I was like, if all of them give, I like did the math of what, I don't know, I'm not even going to try. Like $10 makes 7,000. I was like, then we're almost there. Yeah. That was my logic.
What was the crowdfunding goal?
It was 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 10,000. We ended up raising 11,600, I think.
Nice.
Something close to that.
What platform did you guys use?
Seed and Spark.
Seed Spark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I would recommend.
I think that's one that not many people have heard of around here.
Yeah, it is a filmmaker specific crowdfunding platform, so it's only films. Gotcha. There's nothing else there, and they before you do your campaign, you can do a class. Like they have, like, I don't want to say a book because it's not a book, but it's like a huge packet that you can download from them and like read about it, and you can do, I think they do the classes twice a month. Okay. That like they're really detailed and they're super helpful, and they give you feedback on your like your copy and your video and all of that. Like they'll look at your page before you launch it and give you feedback.
Wow. Which so what was some of the feedback they gave you guys? Can I ask?
Yeah. So I shot the video on my phone. Like, cause I didn't like.
Oh, like the little like, hey, like this is our
the pitch video. Campaign. I like had the phone balanced on a ladder just in the yard.
Nice.
And then I had cut it in with like reference stills and like stuff from the short, so it all worked and stuff. But I'm trying to remember because it was specific feedback of the order of what I had said, and they were totally right to switch it. And it was basically I don't remember the exact note, but they were like, you should say this first instead of whatever I had said first. And I'm like, you're right. And.
Wow. So it's real people. It's not just bots going through this and be like, hey, this format should be this way.
For sure. And it's real people. And I think they had also said something about making sure that like the copy where you can like talk about your team and talk about the incentives and the story, they're like, make sure that's engaging and make sure there's like a lot of pictures. They're like, because if it's a wall of text, people will just look away.
It's true.
Which is true.
Fair.
Very, very true. But yeah, I highly recommend them because they have an 85% success rate, I think.
Wow.
Because there's already people on the site that are looking for stuff to donate to.
Gotcha.
And we got a lot of support from other people that were also crowdfunding at the same time, which is cool. And they have like, they also have grants where like, I don't know exactly how it works.
Wow.
Because we didn't get one, but another project I worked on did, where it's like they have patrons, I think is what they call them. Where it's like people who are not necessarily part of the Seed and Spark team, but like, what's the word I want? Honorary. Like honorary Seed and Spark folks who are like, I would like to give to help make some independent films. Like, here's the genre or the topic I would like to focus on. And then say there's like 5 projects in that genre. They'll go and look at it and be like, I like this one best. And then they'll be like, here's $1,500 or whatever.
Nice.
Which is super cool. And it's a really, like, it's a streamlined platform. Like, it's easy to use.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd known about that, to be honest.
Well, the other ones, like, there's different perks to the other ones because, like, Seed and Spark, you have to get 80 or 85% to get the money, which is
sure.
Which is like horrifying because
like it could all be just zero.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't charge you they don't charge the people who donate till the end of the campaign, which is great, but also so scary.
Yeah,
scary. Whereas like other ones, I think it's it's not all or nothing like that.
Yeah,
which is great. It's all good, but I was like, let me do the scary one. Why not? Why not?
How did you market this thing then? Was it all social media or was it you just have that many awesome friends?
For the crowdfunding campaign specifically, I didn't work the month of August, which was the month we ran the crowdfunding campaign. I was like, I have a friend who ran a really successful crowdfunding campaign that raised like $40,000 for a short film, which is insane. Yeah. I was the AD on it, and it was like we got to do so much cool stuff, and like we had such a great time because we had like really good financial support. I'm like, but how'd you do that? And he was like, I made it my full-time job. And I'm like, that
makes sense.
Again, scary.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll also take August off work and do this. And so my initial thing with social media, like we already had a Facebook page, all that stuff. So started there, but also I'm going to guesstimate that I probably sent like 15,000 emails.
Wow.
To like people I actually have at least met in person.
Okay. But
so
it was still
like
pretty cold emails, like.
Yeah, my tactic, and it worked. So, whatever. Every crew that I had worked with as an AD, I like put all their emails in like the BCC or whatever, and like exactly how I would have done a call sheet. And then the subject was the title of that movie, whatever it was, and it's like your first AD is making a movie, and then I like gave a little brief description of it. And I'm like, here's this like the Seed and Spark link.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciate your help, and it worked because all of those people like want to see other artists succeed.
That's awesome.
Like if you've worked on set together, you know the trenches, you know the suffering. So you're like, yeah, I definitely want to like see you do more work that you want to be doing.
Wow.
But it was crazy. It was like so many people. So many people. And then I like our cast and crew did similar things, like emailed everyone they've ever met in their entire lives.
Hell, if 10,000 people give $1 or $2, like you got it.
Exactly. And it's wild because Seed and Spark, they kind of give you a breakdown, and they, in that class that I was talking about, they're like the average donation is $25.
Sure.
Which is great Because then I'm not even going to try to do the math. However many people that takes to make $10,000. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I did the math on my own with a calculator, not in my head, thankfully. And our average donation was actually $100.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm really glad that I did this before the strikes. When people like still had work and could like donate. Oh, dang. Man. Yeah. It was very a fortuitous timing, I think.
What about perks for the crowdfunding? How did you kind of navigate that?
That was another thing that I learned in the Seed Spark class. Don't do anything that's going to cost you money. Which is interesting because like your brain always wants to be like, but t-shirts or like mugs or something like that, because it makes sense and people love stuff. People love stuff.
Memorabilia or ephemera.
Exactly. But they were like, don't do anything that's going to cost you money, because then if somebody gives you $25 and you have to give them a t-shirt, the t-shirt's going to cost you $25. So it's great to build the audience with that, but it's not helping you financially. Right. So I thought really hard. I'm like, what can I do that's like interesting? And so it was like access to our lookbook, and then I did a production diary like each week.
Oh, cool.
That was like some behind the scenes photos, and like Michael wrote a statement.
Yeah, notes from the director.
Yeah, like notes from the director, notes from the production designer, notes from our lead actor, like, and then just plopped all the info into Canva and made a cute little like production diary to send to people. And then the lookbook was another thing. And then it was like, you can come to set for a day, which nobody took me up on. Fine. Or I think one of the higher tier perks, aside from like, the credits of like EP or AP or whatever, one of them was like invitation to the rap party or stuff like that. Like just things that people like. Yeah. Or like would think
people... That don't cost you anything. It's just
kind of... It costs nothing.
But it's including someone in this process, which is cool.
Yeah. Which was, and it worked. And luckily a lot of people were like not in Iowa, so they're like, no, it's okay, I don't need to come to set. And I'm like, that's good. Wow. That's good, because we're for sure just like on a farm, and you probably would lose your mind.
It's well funny.
Yeah.
You'll hate it.
Yeah.
How has the reception in Lehigh been?
I haven't processed the event at all yet. Like, I'm still on another planet from that. Like, fully knocked me out of orbit from Earth. Oh. And I don't know when I'll come back.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Enjoy the cosmic ride.
Yeah, truly. And we hadn't really shared it with a lot of people before that. Right. Like outside of our little echo chamber of like all of us making it. The few people that I did share it with really enjoyed it, and like it seemed like people were getting it, and like it was clicking, and people are like, I like this. That's been the general, like, I like this. Yep. People like the performance, they like the cinematography. People are like really, my favorite thing is the best compliment I got was from this incredible filmmaker named Jo Rochelle, who is from Minnesota but lives in Los Angeles now. She made a feature maybe 2 years ago now, pretty recently, and she like just did this absolutely beautiful short super recently that's like getting ready to probably crush the entire festival circuit. But she watched it and she said, this reminds me of The Writer, which was our biggest inspiration. So I'm like, wow, okay, all right, nobody else needs to see it. Joe got it. We're good.
Got it.
We're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far the reception's been good. I don't have any idea what the audience did during the movie, what they thought. Aside from, I learned that the person who plays our auctioneer, like has a fan club, I'm pretty sure, because people cheered when he walked in. I'm like, oh no, why are you cheering?
Well, they weren't supposed to cheer here.
I'm like, you're not supposed to cheer right now. What are you doing? But
that's awesome.
Whatever. If
he probably brought in a whole bunch of
I was like, whatever. If they love him, they love him. That's fine. We'll take it. We'll take it. But yeah, I hope the reception is good.
Is there going to be an official like premiere?
Because like the weird lingo around
the language here specific.
We'll know when we get our first festival acceptance, like where our world premiere will be.
Oh, got it. Because that's
Yeah, that's the whole thing. But like, fingers crossed, it's somewhere cool.
Yeah.
Finger crossed it's like fun and soon. Really the hope is like soon.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people that are like, when are we going to see this? I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I know we didn't get into South by, we didn't get into Sundance. Those are the 2 rejections we've got so far, which, duh.
It's okay.
But you gotta.
Yeah.
Like, it's a milestone to submit to them. And getting into them is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully soon we'll have a real, like, yeah, that'd be sick. It'd be sick. Telluride, Montana, Julian Dubuque, if you're listening. I would die. That's the dream.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Get us in. We're close.
Something I like to ask people is, what kind of art or media, films, books do you recommend, for people to pursue this craft or to just get inspired?
Great question. Just watch just every movie, like even horrible ones. Just anything that if you see an image from it makes you think or like inspires you. Just watch it because you're going to learn something from it. Books. There's so many like tech books that I can't even begin, but like the classics of like Save the Cat and stuff like that. Read them, take them with a grain of salt because rules are meant to be broken. Like you can tell a story however you want. It's not that deep. Just tell the story. And as long as it makes sense, you're good. Yeah. And yeah, like listen to a podcast, like other filmmakers talking is like huge because like on your level, especially like the Deacons podcast is incredible, obviously, but he's Deacons. But he's Deacons. It's like, wow. And like he's bringing on like Bradford Young and like these massively accomplished people, which is aspirational and really cool to listen to. Yeah. But like podcasts of people that are at your level and like watch those people's movies. Sure. Because then you can kind of get a benchmark of like, cool, this is what they're doing. This is what I'm doing. Like I see where all of our strengths are. And then also people on your level are easier to reach out to. Yeah. Especially if you like know about their work and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Like, it's just nice. Yeah. It's just nice. Like build a community from the stuff you're listening to and watching. Yeah. What are you watching lately? Or what have you loving lately? I just rewatch Bob's Burgers constantly. So the new season of Bob's Burgers, incredible, amazing. I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Barbie, which is really embarrassing. But, it is what it is. Aside from, like, seeing Knee High the other night, which doesn't count. Like, that was... I did that. That doesn't count. But, yeah, and then I'm reading this book that's fully fictional, but highly recommend. It's called Final Cut. And it's, like, a murder mystery on a film set. Oh, cool. And the first page, like, calls out the AD department so hard. Like, I read the first page and I went... I think I'm going to close the book for like 10 minutes. Was it written by a filmmaker that like... I don't think so. This stuff? They just knew the world. Yeah. Like fully fictional, I hope, because it's a murder mystery. But like the main character is this like a costume supervisor. Mm-hmm. And if like she's the main character, you follow it. Like she's the one who finds the body. It's wild. And it's so good. And like, especially if you're not currently on set and you're like, man, I wish I was on set. Yeah. Great read. Because it's just like, oh, cool. Like I'm at work again. Which is a weird thing to want, but if you love it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I had 2 questions left. 1. Okay. 1. What's next? Following Knee High. Besides the festival circuit, which you're sure to be on a ride with. I hope. So that, and then I actually just directed a short film in Los Angeles that I got hired to direct for the first time. Wow. All right. Congrats. Thank you. Which was really cool. I was able to bring Bruce and Andrew Peterson out to shoot it, which was awesome. And then we had a really amazing LA crew. So now I get to do post on that. Fun. And then hopefully my brain will function to write something again. I hope that time comes soon. Yeah. But yeah, post on the short film's called Given. Given. Yeah. Okay. So post on that and then hopefully just a lot of travel for film festivals. Good. That's what I'm manifesting for 2024. Hell yeah. We love it. And then lastly, how can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? Do you want them to? do you want them to get in touch with you? Or how do they just follow your work, Yeah. The easiest place to find me is on Instagram. That is the only thing I'm not even good at it, but I post stories sometimes, and that's just Marissa Vonn. It's just my name. And then for Knee High, it's facebook.com/kneehighfilm. Cool. That's the easiest 2 places to find me. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us, Marissa. Thank you so much for coming out and for just giving us all of your knowledge and all of your expertise. Congrats on Knee High. Thank you so much. We just wish you all the best. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting. Of course, yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.